But yeah, my unit, we had a Christmas party for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
for both units that are in our brigade. And it was good. It was fun. We had a good time. Um, I won a best dressed award because I was the best dressed there. So, that was cool.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I had that shit on. And
I'm with it.
yeah, it was just a good time. And yeah, it was just a really good time. So I think that's one contributing factor, being around good energy, having a good time, and just, you know, it was fun. I had
Nice.
fun.
Did did Ashley go?
No, it was just for our unit, soldiers only.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, soldiers of the unit, because she's a soldier too. But yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. Had a good time. Got
Nice.
mix and mingle with the people that I've been going to this unit with for since January. So
Mm-hmm.
I've built some pretty good relationships, I'd say, and I had some really good conversations with some higher ups, which I think was pretty cool. And yeah, hey, nope, glad to be here.
I love it.
Yeah, how
Love
about you?
it.
How's your week been going?
Amazing. Enlightening. Been finding clarity.
Okay,
Um,
clarity. It's always good.
I feel like I went through 3 shifts this week, like with identity,
Mm,
and I feel clearer than I have in a while.
mm,
Um, I let me hold on. Let me put my phone on D&D.
mm,
Yeah, like man, I've shifted. Like I haven't stepped into it on social media yet, but I've shifted my messaging, like who
mm,
I'm messaging. I shifted my name. Like I went to Shadow Work and Mindset Coach. I
mm,
changed all my platforms. And then I shifted my messaging again. And then again. And
mm,
then today it kind of came full circle because I had a session with one of my coaches. And as I was talking, because we've been speaking to the needs, like our needs right now. And
mm,
she was like, well, what do you feel about significance coaching?
mm,
Like, because of like she knows my journey and things like that. So essentially I'm saying all that to say I am shifting and stepping into significance coaching.
mm,
I feel like a lot of my challenges and things have been trying to lean towards significance, and not necessarily external significance but internal significance, you
mm.
know not
Okay.
necessarily looking to feel seen or heard and accomplished by you know other people, by social media standards or society standards, but finding significance within self has been the journey.
Mm,
Because one thing, I mean, significance of coaching, like I'm really just changing the title and I'm shifting a little bit who I'm speaking to, but the core pillars of what I'll be talking about is essentially the same, because one thing she told me, she was like, to be honest, like I'm more similar to the client that you want, right? Like
mm,
accomplished and already having success on paper.
mm,
But well, she wasn't saying like she doesn't have the inner, but she was essentially saying like the me a few years ago, like I wouldn't have been looking for a shadow work coach, you
mm,
know. And so we've been talking about kind of using the exact verbiage that other people would. Now, while some people in life, they're not going to sit up here and say, oh, I'm looking for significance in life either. But in how I'm going to message my content, it's going to shift into speaking to that person that's already accomplished certain things like I said, on paper, high achievers, got the degree, got the good job, they're stable. It's just they're still feeling like something's missing. They're still feeling a disconnect. They're still feeling like unfulfilled in certain areas of their life. They still got those like self-limiting beliefs. So that
Mm.
is a shift that I've had that I'm feeling more aligned with, but it's
Okay.
also like, because it's been different, you know?
Right. That's
Um,
definitely different. That is definitely different for sure. I'm
yeah.
that's a new title I've never heard before. Significance coaching. Hmm.
Right.
But I
And
like
that's the thing, you know? But essentially it's still gonna be shadow work. It's gonna be mindset. It's gonna be, personal development. Like, but I think that will allow me to stand out and also give me the freedom because it's again, you haven't heard that before, you know? So
it.
I'm stepping into that and it feels kind of delicious.
Yeah. Delicious. Okay. I like it though. I mean, it's the same thing, it's just a different title, and it's honestly catchy because it's something that you don't hear often. Like you hear
Yeah.
mindfulness and shadow work, and but significance, it
Hmm.
does make you intrigued as to what it means and how it how it helps. Because I feel like that's a trigger word almost. Because to
Hmm.
somebody, it's like that's what they're missing, and when they hear the word significance, it's like, oh, this might be what I'm looking for. Like not
Right.
mindset, not shadow work, but significance is what I'm looking for. I like that.
Yeah.
It's very niche. It's very niche.
Definitely is.
Yeah,
Definitely is. So
I like
yeah, that's what I've stepped into and I'm excited to I've been inspired.
that.
I'm like brain has been like, ooh.
Mm. I think is that what inspired today's topic for you, as far as like the power of routine, or what was the other one?
I thought we was talking about what you were saying.
Well, we are, but since you're
Oh.
mentioning this, I just kind of figured
Oh.
maybe that's what triggered the idea of you wanting to talk about that.
No, not necessarily because that I had put that in the note, one of the earlier notes we did like some weeks ago.
Mm,
But I mean it definitely, you know, I
mm,
could definitely add to from thinking about this, perspective of a significance coach, I guess. But
mm.
yeah, no, I put that in there some time ago.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I still feel like it's all in alignment, significance. And we're just gonna be talking about what things that you can do to get started in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
significance is tied into that because direction gives you a sense of significance because you can see what it is that you're doing and you can like pinpoint and check off different boxes as to like, okay, I've done this, boom, I achieved this, boom. And it gives you a sense of fulfillment, which creates that significance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. That's so the origins of this topic, right? I was listening to something while I was in the gym, and it was like 33 things that you can use today to basically get your life on track, right? And I like listening to things like this when I work out, as opposed to music, because I feel like when your when your focus is on something else, it allows the subconscious mind to absorb certain knowledge and information that your frontal lobe may not be able to take in because you want to break it down and analyze it and things of that nature. Where the subconscious mind, it just becomes the things that you put into it. So when I was listening to this, there was so many different things that I was hearing, and it was like resonating so much. And I wanted to extract a few things from it that really resonated with me. And this is how I was able to come up with these 5 key points that I feel as though can help others become greater versions of themselves and put them on the path in the right direction as they're entering into a new year. So yeah. And funny enough, right? Before we get into it, you was talking about shifts. And I kind of feel like I'm shifting too in a sense. Cause I was having a conversation with my sergeant major in my unit. And we were just sitting down having lunch or whatever. We were just having a conversation. And I was just telling him about, some of my journey and how I got to where I am. Cause he was asking me about how I was doing and stuff. I told him about my business and he was intrigued about it. And I told him how I was going and things of that nature. And I also told him about the other various businesses that I started before this one even came to fruition. And as we were leaving the building, he was saying, like, maybe you should, like, do a class or teach some of these soldiers about, like, entrepreneurship or just give them some direction. And the thing that I got from that, and I always listen for like different signs and things of that nature to see where I'm at in my life. And that made me think that this right here, what we're doing, is similar to the thing that he was suggesting I do. Not in the sense of like helping people to start businesses or have business acumen, but just helping people with direction if they feel like they're lost or they don't have a purpose. And I feel like the majority of my life has been spent just trialing and erroring and really just figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And it's brought me to this conclusion. And sometimes I get the notion of like, well, I'm just an average guy who's just, you know, who's trying things and who's figuring it out too. But then when you have conversations with people at different levels, it makes you think from a different perspective to say, maybe I do have something, or maybe I have figured something out, and maybe I need to lean into that more. And so that ties as well, that topic or that conversation, should I say, ties into this as well, because these are some things that resonate with me. And these are the things that I utilize to this day to help me continue to strive forward and to just achieve. So let me ask you this though. What was your idea? What was your mindset when I dropped this in the docket and you was just like, okay, 5 things and then I did drop some other things too, which I don't know if you extracted anything from all the other ones that I put in there, but what was your thought process?
Let's say what I thought about was because, 5 things that you can do right now to get started in the right direction. I thought of how can I go from feeling stuck or lost, kind of like what you just said, to living a life filled with purpose and direction. Um, so I mean, that made me kind of go down the rabbit hole of how I would say, like, how would I guide someone to get started? And with that, and we kind of touched on it in a previous episode. I don't recall which, but where we kind of talked about you're kind of already started now, like listening to this, these kind of podcasts or reading certain like self-development books and things like that, like just like how this was inspired by, you said, a what was it, like a
Oh yeah, my sergeant major.
okay, yeah, so like just how you got inspired by something and it like created this ripple effect. I feel like when you're feeling stuck or lost, that is the thing, to find something to attach to,
Mm.
because even in whatever season that you're in, whether it's whether it's a season of rest for you or a season of just um action for you or whatever, find out, dig into the things that stick out to you,
Mm.
whatever resonates to your spirit. So if it's like something on here, I feel like we think there are these rules to life. We think that there are these, like, we create these expectations and this belief on what it should look like, but
Mm.
I think where I got where I was catapulted on my journey was when I finally came to the realization that the rules are fucking fake.
Mm,
The rules are not real. Like, we create these rules and expectations, and I feel like they're more limiting.
mm.
So I would say to guide you, and I saw that you made a note about like it being a game. Essentially, that's what this is.
Yeah,
This matrix that we're in, like, we create our reality, we create what we want. So if you don't know what the right direction is, hell, choose one. Like,
yeah,
that's the right direction to go.
yeah.
Like, whatever your interest is, or whatever, just lean in. Again, the path of least resistance. Go with something, because indecision is essentially, that's the indecision in action. That's how you fail. That's really the only way to fail, if you really think about
Yeah, yeah. You know what? That works actually because it ties into the first point, right?
it.
Ceaseless action outruns depression. And I'll just read it first off. Ceaseless action outruns depression. Take consistent and purposeful steps. Now, I did make a side note to say that it doesn't mean that you do things to distract yourself, but that means to make every single move that you take meaningful. Like, you know, the old saying, move with a purpose. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're in the military, then you know.
That's what this says. It says do everything with intention.
Mm,
So yeah.
everything with intention. Exactly. Do everything with intention. And it doesn't matter. You can intentionally wash dishes, right? It's all about just being present with whatever activity that you're involved in the moment. And so that is what really cures it, because most of the time depression comes from when you're not doing anything, or when you don't know what to do exactly, or you're second guessing the thing that you should do next, right? And so, like you said before, just taking action really can cure that, right? I'm not saying it's the end all be all cure, but it can be the beginning of you curing whatever depression that you may be feeling. Because for me, I find it helpful when I'm feeling that way. It's because it's not that I'm not doing anything, but I'm not doing anything that is for my betterment, for my greater good. Because we all can do things, right? But the things that we do sometimes aren't really beneficial for our growth. Because sometimes we'll do things and it's like, well, I still feel this way. But it's because you're not attaching meaning to the thing that you're doing. So by attaching meaning to what it is that you're doing, you're actually creating the action that helps you to get over that depressiveness. And that can look so different for so many different people. It can be going for a walk, because sometimes that's what you need. You need to just get moving. You need to get out of that space, because that space is not providing you the energy that you need for you to get out of that depressive state. So going for a walk, right? And then just finding something meaningful as you're going through that walk, right? And then once you come back to that space that you once was in, now you can look at it from a different vantage point and say, okay, what can I do right now, right here, that can move me forward? It could be something so simple. Like for me, I'll put on some meditative music and I'll just start writing notes in a notebook, or I'll type it on here on my tablet. But I'm just getting my thoughts out, right? And seeing what's on my mind, because sometimes we can feel what's on our mind, but we can't see what's on our mind. So you need to really put those words out and get them out of your system and see what it is that's really going on. Like, what's bothering you, what's bugging you, what is it that you're feeling right now that you're not actually expressing outwardly, but you're just continuously bouncing this idea back and forth in your mind, which is causing this state to get even worse.
Yeah.
So doing that,
You know,
go ahead.
oh, sorry. No, I don't mean to cut off your wisdom.
So doing that can actually alleviate space for your mind to come up with a solution for whatever it is that is plaguing your mind. Because our brains are designed to protect us, for one, and for two, to find solutions to any problem that we may be facing. That's it.
Yeah. No, I feel that. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a,
Yeah,
not giving medical advice or anything. I would say when I think about myself, like when I've been depressed or in depressive states, that was a signal that I was not in alignment with myself. That was a signal that I was going against, that I was resisting like a value or a need,
Mm.
and it wasn't being met. It meant that there was boundaries that were crossed. I was just not, again, in alignment. So it makes sense that, like you said, that ceaseless action, that just doing something
Mm.
um can help to get you out of that state, clearing
Mm.
your energy. Hell, I've had moments where I've been like, so it wasn't depressed state, it was like more like maybe overstimulated or just disconnected. I will move the energy around in different ways. Like sometimes, like I learned even clapping, like just moving the energy around. I've been so kind of down where I didn't feel like, I mean, that's kind of like depression, right? Where you just like, I don't want to do nothing, like it just seems fruitless. It seems like kind of like, what is this going to do for me? I just want to be here in the pit, in the hole,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of, feel sorry for myself, and, that more of that victim mentality. But doing something, whether it's like you said, just walking, or even, talking to a person that you feel could be a safe space for you, going to therapy once a week, like something to keep you in motion.
Mm.
Because depression is stuck energy. That is when you're stagnant, you're not aligned, it's very heavy energy. To get out of that, we have to move it around. We got to manipulate. We talked about energy manipulation,
Mm.
um, to get out of it.
Mm.
And I think to shift that mindset too, it's important to note that nothing outside of you can pull you out of it.
Mm.
I know, and again, not not a doctor, because I know like there's been times where I had to resort to medication. Like it helped me, during periods. But at the end of the day, you are the medicine.
Mm.
We are our own medicine. We are our own healers. And that is why placebos, and this was something that like it stood out to me from one of my coaches that he talked about, because he's all about like mindset, is placebos are the most widely studied, like more than any other drug.
Mm. Yeah.
Because I mean, they use it on every study, right? Like, how many people have been healed that weren't given the medicine that they thought? Why? Because we are our own fucking medicine.
Mm. Talk about it.
Whatever you believe is truth. So if I'm just stuck and I'm like, woe is me, like life sucks, the dating pool sucks, nobody wants me, nobody hears me, I feel insignificant, I feel like that is truth.
Mm.
That is the reality we create. So if we're stuck in depression and we just, like, again, we speak like words are spells, as I say. So with that being said, just I say all that to say we have to keep doing something.
Mm.
No matter how big or small we may think it is, that could be the thing that literally transformed your life. Like we've both been talking about shifts occurring in our lives, and it stems from a little, not little, but conversation, or one coaching session that just kind of broadens your perspective. It shifts your reality.
Mm.
So
You know
choose
what?
something to focus on.
You know what else I think helps too? When you have friends like us, because sometimes me, I know my role. I'm the positive guy. That's what everybody knows me as because I'm always like cheerful. It always appears as though I'm cheerful because I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have like a positive outlook on everything. No matter who's around me or whatever they're talking about, I just have this like it is an aura that you see. Like I have a positive disposition. And so I'm the type of person, I feel as though I'm the type of person that you need someone who can have these kind of conversations with you because you need somebody who is able to take you out of that, even if for a brief moment. Because a lot of people, their minds aren't trained to really see life the way that we see it. Because I feel like everybody goes through that state, but not everybody is equipped to get out of that, at least themselves, by themselves. They may need like
Right.
help, like medication or therapy or things of that nature, which is fine and important. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is, however, what I'm saying is having conversations with good people like us or having these type of people in your circle helps you to get out of those states to us, or should I say assist you in getting out of that state. Because you just need somebody who can see your life from a different vantage point because you can't see it. It's like you're trying to look over a wall, but it's like you can't see what's over that wall, but the person standing next to you can. And it's like you don't see what's going on over here, but all you can see is just the wall and whatever little crack that you put in it, right? Because you was trying to get over it, but you was just forcefully trying to get yourself over it. But you got somebody who's a giant who can stand over that and see what's going on and tell you about it, or even put you on their shoulders so you can see exactly what's going on the other side. And that is just an example of your life. Because honestly, I could say that your life is actually better than you may think it is. But you have to be the one to look for the better in your life. Because, yeah, we go through things, we have troubles and trials and tribulations. That is true. Everybody does. But you know the old saying, there's somebody that has it worse than you, right? And it's not even to look outside of yourself to see who has it worse than you, but it's just to look inside yourself and see how good you have it for yourself. Because it could be a
Mm-hmm.
lot worse. And honestly, you've overcome so much. And that's what I like to do. I like to look back in my life and see all the things that I've overcome. Like, I used to live in a shotgun house, I guess you can call it. It looked like one. And there was no central heating, there was no insulation. I had to bathe in a freaking sink for years, couple years, right? Because we didn't have like proper running water. Like we didn't have a shower to run water and stuff. Matter of fact, we didn't even have hot water. We had to boil it on the stove and then pour it in the sink and then run cold water in it and then wait for it to kind of, ruminate. And then you go in there and you wash off and all this other crazy shit. But that's just what I came from. And had I stayed stuck in a specific mindset, I probably would still be there. But I always knew that there was more. And I see where I'm at and I see where I came from. And that makes me say, I can go so much further because there's so much more for me to accomplish. So, whatever I'm feeling, cool, feel it, go through it. But at the end of that, you got to start doing something. You got to start putting yourself in purposeful positions so that way you can move forward and move towards the thing that you truly desire in your life.
Yeah. And that allows you to be, I think, intentional with your decisions.
Mm.
And even if I stress so much with clients, like no matter what the result is, even if it's unfavorable or, you regret, like at the end of the day, you have been intentional with your decision. So whatever happens, I'm going to learn from. I'm going to
Mm.
grow from it. I'm going to, it was a mirror for me to see what I need to work on, but if you stay in the mindset of the victim like kind of mindset, that victim mentality, you are going to be stuck in the cycle of kind of those lower vibration, feelings, that regret, that fear, that I'm trying to think, what else I was stuck in, like in my life.
Yeah.
Um, fear of disappointing others or hurting people's feelings. Like it's going to keep you stuck. So again, it like that is very important to speak to community. Have somebody in your community that is at a higher level than you.
Mm,
You need people in your community, like you said, like people that can either bring a positive mindset when you're normally like, because life be life and you probably tend to do what your brain wants you to do is like see all the problems. Have somebody in your circle that is more positive or that has achieved a level of success that you want to achieve. Even if you want to go further than that person, but I feel like sometimes, at least my thing was, I was comfortable around people that were either exactly where I was or lower.
mm,
And I think that was the shift for me when I finally allowed myself to start like placing myself in spaces where people were more advanced than me in certain areas. Because I mean, it felt scary at first. It felt very uncomfortable. But if you haven't seen it, if you don't see it, if you don't have an example, it's going to be harder for action. But if you have somebody, like if I want to go a certain level in my business, if I have a mentor or somebody that I can see, like I could see their lifestyle, to see how they move in their life, how they show up in the world, I'm not gonna like, I'm most likely not gonna be stuck in that, like just not making moves for too long
mm,
because I have this person in my orbit, and that gives me something to look at. That gives me a template to be able to say, like, hey, I mean, I've seen life for them too. Like even though they problems is different from my problems, but they don't allow that to keep them stuck.
mm,
It kind of opens these like windows for you. Like, well, I wonder, what could come if I just did this, or maybe there's something in that for me. Maybe I can show up that way in my life, even though like it just opens up pathways that you didn't have access to before. You know. So it
mm,
is very important to have community, to have either a mentor or, a guide, a coach, a accountability partner of some sort to help you. Because sometimes, yeah, we aren't motivation enough for ourselves.
mm,
When you're on that journey, when you're first starting, especially, I know I wasn't.
mm.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't. So
Yeah.
I would say yes, community is a big part of that.
Mm. True indeed. True indeed. All right, let's move forward. Next point we have is aim to impress yourself. Focus on self respect and personal standards. I really like this one. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, Aim to impress yourself, right? I do this thing, right? I actually talked about it in the video. You ever like walk past the mirror and this is like you see yourself and this is like you see the progress that you're making, like you see the work that you've done on yourself. You see like, you've been working out, you see your muscles getting bigger and you got this skincare routine that you do that you really love and you're just taking care of your health in the best way. And not only that, you can just tell like how your brain is just snapping on all different cylinders. Like I feel like that is impressive of self. That is just like showing like, okay, I'm doing this work not to impress others, but really to impress myself. Because the more I show love to myself and the more I show up for myself, the more that starts to show on the external. And people can see that. Like your energy will speak before you even say a word, right? And to me, that's what aiming to impress yourself looks like. Like having a routine, having daily habits that you do on a daily basis. Being self-reflective, having that self-talk with yourself. Like, how are you feeling? How's your heart today? Like, what's your capacity for people today? Like, what's your ceiling today? Because everybody starts at different levels and everybody is at different levels. So I think that to me speaks highly about aiming to impress yourself. But what about you? What do you think? What do you think when it comes to impressing yourself? What do you think about that? And how do you aim to impress yourself?
So with that, what I did for myself and what I work with clients to do is to discover the core values and also rediscover, and this is something like I do it usually once a year and usually every time like I enter like a new relationship, is to find your define your love language, because at different points in our lives it's different things, we have different needs, right? So, and I do that because if you have clarity on what your core values are, you know what direction to go into.
Mm,
You know, and so when I think about impressing yourself and showing up as the best version of yourself in all areas of your life, I think the way to do that is, or one way is to know your values, what that means to you, like what they are, you know, like I've mentioned before, like my number one is, um, well, one of my top ones is personal development and growth. So
mhm,
that guides my decisions pretty easily. Because of that, am I going to, you know, go, trying to think what would be the opposite of that? Like my decisions, you know, are going to be guided by that. If it is something that leads to my development and growth, it's a yes for me. It's a full body yes for me.
mm,
And it guides other aspects of my life too. If that is my number one core value, if I ask a man, what did you learn about yourself in the past week? Past, you know,
mm,
whatever. And he can't think of anything, he's probably not introspective enough for me. We're probably not in alignment, at least in a romantic sense, because I have to have somebody that's on that level of I am very into my like my wellness, my personal development, and that type of thing.
mm,
Um, so having clarity on the core values, but then also your love language. And I think people think about the love language and we think about, oh, our partner and things like that, right? And that's very
mhm,
important. But the way I guide my clients to is I have them you know, redo the quiz and prioritize what theirs are. And we go into things that can fill that for themselves.
mm,
So the very things that you're seeking from a partner is the very things that you're going to give yourself first.
mm,
That's how you fall in love with yourself. So if acts of service is my like number one, then I'm going to do things that make my life easier.
mm,
I could be the high achiever, but if that's my number one love language, then okay, if I want to make my life easier, that probably means saving myself time,
mm,
having more systems in place. So for me, that is definitely like one of my like my top love language. So for me, that meant getting a nanny.
mm,
That meant creating time where, you know, previously, like may not have whatever scarcity mindset type of thing, but it helps to guide my actions and what I need in my life. And I think that's usually where friction and resistance and depression comes in because we're not living in alignment with who we truly are, what we truly need, what we truly desire.
mm.
That's
I
it.
feel I feel that. I feel all that. That's true. That's true. It's more than just impressing yourself, but it's so much about what are the things that you're doing and what are the things that you're not doing. So yeah, that's truly important. That's truly, truly important.
Yeah.
Next point. And I like this one. I really like this point. Only think, say, and do things that make you stronger. And the adage that I used for this was watch what you think as it becomes what you say. Watch what you say as it becomes the things you do. And watch what you do as it becomes who you are. And I feel like this is just a no-brainer for us because this is just at the top of who we are and how we operate. And we don't do things or say things intentionally that are detrimental to us. Do we mess up? Of course, because we're human. But at the end, our foundation is all about positive affirmations, doing the things that help us grow and become better versions of ourselves. and putting ourselves in alignment with our purpose and putting ourselves in alignment with other people who are a benefit to the purpose that we're fulfilling, and then vice versa. So in your opinion, in your thought process, what comes to mind when you hear this? Like, only think, say, and do things that make you stronger.
I mean, that's in alignment with my, just the program with
Yeah.
coaching, because it's like we go into what is in your DNA, which is like what makes you you, like why your triggers are your triggers, why, the things that you want, your core values, things like that. And in that, I go into essentially what your thoughts and beliefs are what drive your behaviors.
Mm,
What you think ends up like what you say, and that drives your behaviors, which create patterns.
mm,
And a lot of times when we're not self-aware, they are very maladaptive, that, those behaviors that we partake in. So, as I said before, words are spells.
mm,
We What we give our attention to, our focus to, our energy to, that is the reality. So I've gotten very careful with what I say. I've even thought about that from, and it's not to say that people have to go this extreme, but I think when you get to the level that we're at, you do think more, intentional, because I even have been careful of what I joke about too.
mm,
Even though we know we're joking, but like, for instance, one thing I'm actively working on right now is saying like, oh, I'm weak. When you like saying like, oh, I'm laughing, like, oh, I'm weak, that,
mm,
because we're not. And even though it's a joke, and I know most people are like, really, is it that serious? But
mm,
I aim to be intentional in every aspect of my life. So that
mm,
is something that I've been more aware of recently, because I've worked through more bigger things. It's like noticing the smaller things that build up. So now I'll shift it and I'll say like, I'm tickled. Like, that's what I can say.
I'm tick.
Because I mean, to me it gives the same energy, but like, I don't know, I like it. So I'm like, I'm tickled. Um
Mm,
but and we spoke to this before again about the power of manifestation,
mm,
essentially. And the universe, the energy, like, whoever, when we put things out there, if you say like, I don't want no man that ain't shit. Like, the universe sees men that ain't shit. It don't see the I don't. Your
mm,
brain don't see the I don't.
mm,
You're focused on the ain't, men ain't shit part. That is going to be
mhm,
your reality. That is going to be, that's going to be what comes up for you. That's going to be what you run into. It is going to be literally a mirror. So whatever we put out there, whether it's audible, whether it's something we're writing, like whatever it is, like you created it.
mm.
Like,
Facts.
that is your truth.
Facts.
So we got to be very intentional, and I mean, it's a journey, right? Like, it's not a all in one day. You're like, oh, everything I say I gotta, like, no,
Yeah.
that's not, the thing. Start with one thing. If you notice that you sometimes get negative in, whether it's jokes or, whatever it is, focus on that one thing and practice that art
Mm,
of diving into it and being more intentional with your words around it, like whatever that topic is,
mm,
and focus on that. And then it'll build. You'll start to like gradually shift and notice other areas where maybe you're not as intentional. And then you can clean that up.
mm,
But don't like, I gotta do all the things and I gotta, well, let me not just say nothing, because right now my thoughts are all, like, you've been kind of on in this cycle for so many years. It's going to take some unlearning, it's going to take some undoing to then be able to like create the new behavior. We talked about that, like creating space. You have to, the planes can't take off unless it's clear, right? So we have to unlearn before we can relearn and learn some new things.
mm,
So take it in stride. But yes, words have power. So
mm.
Try to speak
And
your reality. That's all I could say. Speak the life, speak into the life you want to be.
mm,
Like even if you ain't there yet, if your external environment, start speaking it.
mm,
You know, if you're feeling depressed and you've been sitting on the, laying on the couch for the past like 3 days, outside of just showing up to work and, like necessary things, doing the bare minimum, just kind of surviving.
mm,
When you have the capacity, because again, we got to go through the motions sometimes, right? And I understand that sometimes it is a time to sit still. But once you have that capacity and you're like, okay, what direction? Because even if you're stuck in that thought of what direction do I go, that's momentum. That's momentum to create movement, to create motion.
mm,
So when you're in that energy, when you have that capacity, that's like when you need to strike.
mm.
Start speaking life into yourself. Start, opening the get up and open the blinds, even if you're like, man, this shit, like, whatever. But it's gonna be a beautiful day.
Mm,
I am, whatever affirmations, right? Because different things hit for different people, but
mm,
speak over your life, the life that you feel that you are meant to live.
mm.
You don't got to speak your life just because these are your circumstances, because circumstances change.
All the time.
So
All,
we need to speak as if we're not identifying and tying ourselves to those things, because
mm,
that's not going to be next week, next month, next year.
mm. Affirming your life. I like that.
Hmm.
Affirming your life. That truly speaks strength into your life. All right, all right. We are cooking now. We cooking. Let's get it. Okay, so the next point we got stress, and I feel like this kind of ties into number one too, but you let me know.
Hmm.
Stress comes from inaction. Stress comes from inaction. Shift from worry to action. Most of the time, and this is my note, this is my own personal note. Most of the times, our minds creates problems that haven't happened yet. But once you shift your focus from how the problem looks to the outcome you desire and take action in that direction, the stress will slowly go away. My key word, slowly. It won't go away altogether. You still gonna feel whatever you're feeling as you're trying to move into the direction of not feeling stressed. But the more you keep moving in that direction, the more you'll start to see like, oh, the stress is going away, it's melting away because your perspective is being shifted. And this kind of makes me think about analysis paralysis. Like a lot of us overanalyze things and it creates a paralysis within us to that inhibits us from moving forward on whatever thought that we have. And sometimes we'll even create negative notions that keep us from moving forward. Like, oh, what if this happens? Or, oh no, we can't go that way because such and such said. And now you're just like, well, I guess I can't do it. Right. And for me, I find that whenever those type of things come up, to me, that incentivizes me to move with whatever it is that feels right, or just move against the thing that people are so resistant to, or so resistant to. So, like, if somebody's saying like, "Hey, we can't go over there because the sign says no trespassing," maybe this is a bad example, but I'm gonna go over there anyway. That's a bad example, but it's just my thought process saying like, you can't restrict me, right? Because if I restrict myself in this moment, then I'm going to continue to restrict myself in every single aspect of my life because I'm always be looking at it from a fear-based standpoint, saying like, oh, I can't go this place because people have said this place is dangerous or blah, 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 whatever the case is, right? But I just look at it as, and that's what causes the stress too, because you feel like, well, dang, I can't do nothing because everything is always gonna try to prohibit you from taking the next step forward. So action is what cures the stress within you, right? In a sense. I mean, there's other things that you can think about, other factors too, but for the most part, action cures stress. because the more you sit down and think about something, the more stressful you're going to become. So that kind of ties into the first one too as well. But tell me your thoughts. What do you think about it when you hear the words like stress comes from inaction?
When I thought about that, like I feel like it just brings me back to my most recent point about what we say and being intentional with it. Because if you are feeling stuck in inaction and you're feeling that stress, that anxiety, that depression that comes from that, if you speak into your life, like I feel like we in life we don't give ourselves permission to reach for things, to dream, to, think of this amazing lifestyle. Like,
Mm,
I feel like it's become something that we see on like TikTok or, like
mhm,
TV or like me, even maybe celebrities, right? Like
mhm,
we think that there's these like dream lives. We don't give ourselves permission to imagine what that life could be like for us because we're too tied to the identity of who we were or our circumstances again or whatever. If you speak into your current like no matter what your circumstances is, right? How much money is in your bank account, whatever. If you speak into this persona of you that is, you're like, it would probably take me 10 years to get there.
mm,
It doesn't matter because at that point, when you speak into that person, even if it's not your reality right now, you create a bridge. You create, like, you've pinpointed the destination.
mm,
If you speak into that persona of who you are wanting to become or, are desiring that lifestyle, once you create that once you pinpoint that place that you want to be in, that gap has no choice but to you're going to bridge the gap, if that makes sense. Like with work, with repetition, with speaking, just keep speaking that life into yourself and finding the community, doing the things, that
mm,
action, whether it feels like it takes you 3 steps back or, like keeps you in the same position for a year and a half, like whatever that looks like for you, you are creating momentum once you speak into the person that you're trying to become.
mm,
And then I feel like the other things will flow. It will come together. It will become full circle for you.
mm,
But again, it starts with how we think, what we say, and that's going to shift the what we do.
mm, mm,
So that's my take on it.
mm. Okay. Okay. I like it. I like it. Solid advice. Solid. All right. Now we're going to move into our final points. By the way, if you got into this point and you're really enjoying the content that we're putting out, make sure you leave a comment down below. And also click that subscribe button, click the like button, put the thumbs up or thumbs down. It don't matter either way. Just get the algorithm going, right? But let us
Feedback is
know.
feedback.
Feedback is feedback, good or bad. Either way, we still accept it all. So,
Hmm.
yes, if you got into this point, thank you. We appreciate you. Now, moving on to the last point. And I feel like this one kind of ties it all together. Number 5, invest in your spiritual well being. Tap into a higher power, whatever that means for you, and seek guidance and wisdom to keep you grounded and focused on your journey. Now, this one I feel like is important because the thing that comes to mind when I hear this is when you can't lean on your own understanding, seek guidance and wisdom from a higher source. Whether you're a religious person or a spiritual person, if you read the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, whatever you believe in, just seek something higher of a higher understanding than your own, because you where you are not going to get you to the point where you need to be to feel better or to do better or to know better, because most of the times our thinking got us where we are in the first place, and that same mentality is not going to get us where we need to be, so that way we can move forward. So however you decide to do that, for me, I like to meditate And I'm a philosopher, right? I'm a scholar. I like to read various texts from various regions across the globe, right? Because I believe in taking knowledge and wisdom from all aspects and creating a philosophy based on the knowledge and information that I've gathered for myself. And so meditation is something that I really love to do. And this allows me to tap into a higher source because I'm being still. And with being still, I'm grounding myself and I'm connecting myself to a higher source. So that way I can listen. Like if you're a religious person, you know that God's voice is not loud, it's a whisper. And so you have to get silent, get still in order to hear that voice. And so meditation really allows me and it helps me to hear that voice, that inner voice, right? If that's something you believe in. Also, reading various texts like the ones I mentioned earlier, like the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, or the Kabbalah, whatever you listen to, it helps you to tap into a higher source or a higher understanding from somebody who has reached a certain pinnacle, right, in life. And it helps you to really see like life from a different vantage point. And it helps you to be like, well, man, maybe I can take this and maybe I can apply it to my life and see how it works, you know? And so what comes to your mind when you hear investing in your spiritual well-being, and how do you invest in your own well-being spiritually?
My spiritual well-being, well, the first thing, honestly, like at first on my journey, yeah, I found like a spiritual mentor and I learned practices about, like I got really into plant medicine, which is a big part of my healing journey and what saved me. Um, but that is where I got into like learning about ancestral and got more into like meditation and things like that. So for me, like the number one way I invest in my spiritual well-being is investing in myself. um
Hmm. Okay.
I realized that because again, like growing up very religious and leading me to my journey of just I went through a period of like stagnancy and just kind of staying away from all of it into then
Mm-hmm.
finally exploring. And that's what led me to my spirituality. And like you said, like I've kind of created this like pot of gumbo of things that I've taken from just a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one thing that I'll say is like I realized that my life is the spiritual practice.
Mm.
Like I am it.
Mm-hmm. I am who I am.
So me investing in myself, again, the personal development growth is the number one way. Me exploring and being curious and open to hearing other people that may be religious or that they may be a different kind of spiritual. You know what I mean? Like there's levels to this when it comes to spirituality. We know this, right? So being just open to exploring and curious, not like leaning into judgment or fear. That has been my number one like spiritual practice
Mm.
because the judgment and the criticism that we tend to have when it comes to religion or other people's like value systems and beliefs, like that doesn't lead you to grow. You know what I mean? It keeps your perspective very limited.
Mm.
So for me, spirituality is about one, being in tune with self, with your higher power, and then also developing like a deeper understanding of, because the more you understand yourself, the more you understand the world, I feel like. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the practice. It's to the journey of self discovery, but then also being open to receive, open to just explore other people and their practices, and you taking whatever fits. Take the roses, leave the thorns,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I like that analogy.
So that's how I tap into my spiritual well-being.
Mm. I like that. And it's simple too. It's like it doesn't need to be all super sophisticated and so deep and philanthropic or philosophical. It could just be something as simple as you waking up and just being thankful for the day, right?
Yeah.
Being thankful to draw breath. That in itself is powerful, especially doing it first thing in the morning, right? And I like that. I mean, it's powerful the way that you go about doing what it is that you're doing, and the fact that you've come to this conclusion in your life. You know, it speaks to your level of growth. And a lot of people are striving to reach that level of growth, but a lot of them just don't know how to attain it. And a lot of them feel like they're stuck or they're being judged because they're curious and they're trying to satisfy that curiosity, however that may be. And they get judged for that. And I feel like the world would be better if we all just saw everybody's values and just respected it without trying to judge or conform anybody to your way of thinking, right? It's all about, for me, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, there's only two things that you can have in a conversation. Either a good conversation or you become a student or a teacher. It depends on the conversation, but most of the times I find myself being a student and learning from other people because I'm genuinely interested in other people and how they live their lives and their ideologies and their philosophies, because maybe I can learn something from them and then vice versa, right? And that's something that you learn when you're building a business or if you're just doing whatever. Like for me, I had to learn those skills when I was doing multi-level marketing, like just talking and conversating with people and generally being interested in who they are and where they come from and, you know, the things that they do, right? And that led me to be a really good question asker because I feel like some of the most powerful answers you get or some of the most powerful conversations you have comes from the questions you ask. Having good in-depth questions and getting really good in-depth answers. So that's a way of living. At least for me, I feel like that's a good way of living. So yeah.
This is good.
This was good. This was really good. They're always really good though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in conclusion, these points are essentially designed to help you get on track in the right direction. This isn't the end all be all, but this is a way to help you get started or at least give you something to think about, right? Because if you can think critically and more in depth about yourself and your life, then you can operate differently. So all of this is about really helping your operation, really getting you started and really helping you get going in whatever direction that you're going. And even if you don't know what direction you're going in yet, you can at least have these things to help you start moving forward until whatever it is that you feel is right for you to do shows up. And then you can take action on that. So that's my final thoughts on that. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we talked about it. Drops mic.
Boom. Well, y'all, this has been another Beyond the Usual with me, Paula Zay, and Kalisha Lachey. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for being on this journey with us. Thank you for allowing us to be on this journey with you. And until next time, peace and progress.
Peace.
Woo!